meeting of the Harwich Conservation Commission back into order after an executive session that was held at 6 o'clock on a request from the Harwich Conservation Trust for letters of support to hold a conservation restriction on property in Harwich that is under negotiation for purchase. This is a hybrid meeting. Participation is possible in person through the Harwich channel or online, participating live online through GoToMeeting. Instructions for logging into the GoToMeeting session can be found on the Conservation Commission agenda that has been published on the Town of Harwich website. We're going to start the public session with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda this evening is for discussion and possible vote for Hinckley's Pond, Herring River Headwaters, CR at 0 Pleasant Lake Ave, Harwich, a request for a letter of support to the Select Board for approval of a CR, and for North Woods CR, 0 Woodland Road in Harwich, request for acceptance of a CR that is conservation restriction with commission signatures and letter of support to the Select Board for approval of the CR. So, Mike?
Yep.
All right.
Michael Locke, Executive Director of the Harwich Conservation Trust, thank you for the opportunity to...
Excuse me, Mike, I don't see
don't
if
have
there's
a
a
mic.
mic there.
Oh,
Probably
Let me get
need
you
a
one.
mic.
Oh, you'll get.
Oh, no problem. Michael Locke, Executive Director of the Harwich Conservation Trust. Thanks for the opportunity to appear before your commission this evening, seeking, as you mentioned, a letter of support from the Town Conservation Commission to the Harwich Board of Selectmen, endorsing Selectmen's support of the conservation restriction for the property located on Pleasant Lake Ave in Harwich. This is that lot that's essentially directly opposite the access road into Cape Tech, if you can visualize that area. This is part of the larger acquisition of those 30 acres on the east side of the rail trail at the corner of Headwaters Drive and Pleasant Lake Ave. This CR, conservation restriction, CR for short, focuses on just that 1 acre that's opposite the access road to Cape Tech. The second item would be, again, a letter of support from the Conservation Commission to the Select Board. You have draft letters in your packet asking the Select Board also to endorse a conservation restriction on the North Woods property. That's roughly 7 acres that was owned by Louis R. Gammons, that was acquired by the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust on behalf of Harwich Conservation Trust, while we assemble the funding, portion of which was approved at Harwich May 6th town meeting. Community Preservation Act Open Space Funds voters unanimously authorized $100,000 toward the acquisition of this roughly 7 acre property that's on the border between Harwich and Brewster. We're working with our counterparts in Brewster on another 3+ acre portion of the same property. But this conservation restriction focuses on the Harwich portion. Since there's Community Preservation Act open space funds that have been authorized for this property, for the acquisition by the town of the conservation restriction, it also needs signatures of your Conservation Commission members. So that's the difference between the two properties. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Amy?
I have no comments. I recommend that you support the actions stated in front of you.
Okay, thank you. Wayne?
Nothing.
Jim?
No comment.
Brad?
So I do support the request for support letters, and I'm just trying to figure out if we're being asked to move on the notice of intent tonight. Is that
Later on.
later? Okay, later on. Okay, gotcha. All right, that's all.
I have no questions.
Sophia? I have no questions. I fully support this. Okay, I can make a motion. so-
Sure, I will move that we,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I should be asking for public comment.
Thank you. Alan Hall, North, how are you today?
Great, how are you, Alan?
Good. I just wanted to know on the Northwoods conservation restriction, is that with the town funding part of the purchase of it, is hunting allowed in that area?
Hi, Alan. Thanks for your question. So ultimately, the ownership of the property will be Harwich Conservation Trust, subject to the conservation restriction held by the Town Conservation Commission. And properties that are owned by Harwich Conservation Trust do not allow hunting. There's hunting allowed on the town conservation land adjacent to this property, as well as the water department land that's to the west, as well as hunting to the north in the Brewster's Punkhorn Park lands. I can't recall if hunting in Brewster side of the border is restricted in some fashion, but there's over 900 acres to the north and adjacent to this property.
I'm very familiar with it, and I just wanted to, I didn't know how much money the town actually put into this purchase.
$100,000 has been authorized in Community Preservation Act open space funds.
Okay, I just, the hunting's all allowed all the way around it. I just don't know why that 7-acre piece can't be also allowed for the future generations of the town.
Yeah, there's a house adjacent and to the east, an occupied house, so that would restrict hunting on its own at that location.
I'm aware of the setbacks and all that, but I just, just concerned about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions from anyone in the public, online or in person? Yes.
I guess I should follow up Alan's comment and ask about fishing. Are there any restrictions to freshwater recreational fishing in the pond on the border of the property?
This property, if we're talking about the former Gammons property, is all upland. There's
Okay,
no
just like-
open water nearby,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
okay, I will move that we authorize either the conservation agent or the chairman of the Conservation Commission to send a letter of support to the Select Board of the Town of Harwich for approval of a conservation restriction at Hinckley's Pond, Herring River Headwaters, 0 Pleasant Lake Avenue in Harwich. And, excuse me for a minute, that we accept the conservation restriction for Northwoods, 0 Woodland Road in Harwich, and authorize either the conservation agent or the chairman of the Conservation Commission to send a letter of support on behalf of the Conservation Commission to the Select Board for the approval of the conservation restriction.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Discussion. I thought I heard that we had to, it was necessary for the commission to be signing this. Did I mishear that? One of the
Yes, so, well, there's a support letter, which, if you were comfortable with it, is signed on your behalf for both items, for Hinckley's Pond, CR, or Herring River Headwaters. And then there is a page that you need to sign for the North Woods Conservation Restriction, that all of the commission needs to sign.
I do think that it should be signed by the chair. I mean, that's the way it's gone for many, many years. And it's the
your purview.
Conservation Commission that's issuing the vote and the support letter. So it's a pretty minor point, but I think that's the way it's gone for a long time. So I think it should be clearer, maybe in the motion, to identify the chair.
But one of them, you're requesting that commissioners.
Commissioners
not
need to
just the
sign.
chair, sign.
Correct.
And that is not currently reflected.
You need
in
to
the motion.
accept you need to accept the conservation restriction, and that's what you're signing. Everybody needs to sign it, or a majority needs to sign it.
We need a quorum,
Yes,
4 signatures on there.
correct.
Do we need to modify the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we do, because the motion was to accept the conservation restriction,
Okay,
and the signatures, either by the conservation agent or the chairman, were reflected to the letters of support.
okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
So that's 501.
5,
Just 5-0.
501.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
While you're
Sorry.
here,
Thank you.
while you're all here sitting at the table, and can you sign this if I
Yes,
pass it
you
around,
can.
please?
Sure.
And we can give it to Mike.
Okay, so, so, next on the agenda, we have a request for a determination of applicability for 280 Long Pond Drive, map 103, parcel S3-2, for invasive plant removal and beach nourishment.
Thank you.
Good evening. Phil Cheney here, landscape designer for the Stewarts who reside at 280 Long Pond Road. We have a plan that you have in front of you that outlines a few different items that the Stewarts would like to achieve on their property. I think it's a good project, and I'm hoping that you'll agree. Currently, in the back of the house, this all abuts Long Pond. From Long Pond Road. Here you have a small beach, sandy beach on the edge of the pond, as well as there's some, which is currently outlined by fencing, wire fencing, along surrounding a good portion of the yard. Some of the first things that they want to do is to eliminate all the wire fencing, which is a good thing. Right now, it's just inhibiting the movement of wildlife and is offering really no good purpose anymore. So that's going to be part of what they would do. That would just be mostly removed by hand, pulled out from amongst the thickets where necessary, be done. After that's done, they'd like to nourish their beach with some new sand to freshen that up a little bit. It's just eroded out a little bit. Like to get a few more inches on top to make it last a little longer, make it a little more usable. Then in the 0 to 50-foot zone, just behind that beach, is one really large, about 1,000 square foot patch of invasive plants. There's lots of English ivy, bittersweet, you name it, growing in. A lot of it sort of crept in from the abutter to the west. So the stewards would like to clean that all out, replace it with native plantings like you see on the plan. They would be planted with small mulch circles and then seeded in between with clover. So it would be heading towards a real natural, healthy environment there. I'm requesting, as what we've done, found is kind of common, especially in Chatham at least, the establishment of what we call a mow strip between this patch and the abutter to the west, because they can't control all the invasives on that side. So by having a 4-foot wide strip of native fescue lawn that they can mow, you can keep the ivy from overtaking the patch that we've just reclaimed. So that's really just a maintenance issue that really helps to keep this from returning to where it was. Now, just outside of the 50-foot zone, there is a very large black locust, which is becoming somewhat unstable. You can see where the ground at the root base has started to heave a little bit. There's some fear that it could go down. The homeowners are somewhat reluctant to part with it at this point, but I think they may come to a conclusion soon that they need to remove it. So I've included it on this request to give them the possibility of removing that, replacing it with a couple of red swamp maples in that area. Do that, but they may choose not to do that. I'd like to get permission to do it. And along the property line where these wire fences coming out, there's also there's a lot of bittersweet and such growing on that wire fence. They'd like to replace that fence row with a row of native plants, in this case red chokeberry and witherod viburnum. So again, all pluses in there. And there are some prior native planting areas directly north of the house, and there's just some gaps in there that they would like to fill in with new native plants to make up for what was lost over the years. And the rest of that strip, there is some miscellaneous bittersweet that's invaded some of that patch. They would like the ability to control, using the cut and swipe method as needed, or pulling where available. And the last little bit is some of the foundation plantings they'd like to be replacing. A little bit of that falls within the 100-foot buffer, and so we're showing new native plants and cultivars of native plants in that area. So if that, I think, covers what I've got intended, please have any questions.
Thank you. Amy?
This is an overall improvement on the property, as I view it. All the plants going into the 50-foot no disturb zone buffer will be native. There's a large swath of invasives in that 1,000 square foot patch you have there. It'd be nice to remove all that and start fresh with a bunch of natives. Removing the fence is wonderful for wildlife passage as well. You're removing some lawn. The sandy beach, it's because of high water, it's not, there's not much of it left out there right now, so I would just say that it has to be above the water line of the pond and on the existing beach area, not on any adjacent native vegetation, so not to expand the area at all. But I would recommend approval with a -3 determination.
Thank you. Sophia?
I don't have any questions.
Mark?
One question.
Sure.
Your mow strip,
Yes.
how often are you gonna mow?
This typically, it would be mowed, a lot of the rest of the grass, it's not, highly maintained lawn. It's just going to be probably at most weekly, probably much less than that. Really just as
The
needed.
reason I ask, to avoid a complication, can that be specified in the order of conditions
Yeah.
so they don't have to reappear
Yeah.
on a technicality?
For me, it seems like they should be mowing it regularly just because of how much invasives are on the adjacent property. So I wouldn't want to see it be an annual mow because it has a chance to really creep, so,
Right. Well, that's what I'm getting at, where it's gonna be more often,
yeah.
Okay.
rather
Sure, we
than
can do that.
being caught in a circumstance where they're
Sure.
technically on the
Yep.
other side of a
Yeah.
regulation.
I think the idea would be to mow it along with the rest of that lawn area, so it wouldn't be a special case. It's just once a year. Good. I understand.
So for me, I don't see enough being done here to really naturalize that 0 to 50. there's a big list of native plants, but some of them are quite ornamental. So was there any thought given to putting in plants that would be there naturally? You know, looking at adjacent areas that have native shrubs that belong there. I'm concerned about, it's a very landscaped effort in the 0 to 50, in the name of invasive plant removal. And so that list to me has a lot of things that might not be there otherwise.
These are all plants that I see in that neighborhood on a continual basis. I mean, red chokeberry is very common in those areas, black chokeberry as well.
Right.
Swamp azalea, depending on the spot, can be abundant in those areas. I've got 2 of those.
There's about 20 species, right?
Of different species that I've got?
Yeah.
I've got 1, 2, of the native shrubs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different species. I've got summer sweet, which grows
so.
throughout there.
I thought I saw a bigger list than that.
Oh, there is more, but they're not in that patch.
Right.
Those are the foundation plants up front.
Yeah,
So, yeah, the plants, the list is not quite that large.
right.
So again, sweet fern throughout there, bayberry, Rosa
I mean,
virginiana,
How's it
withering.
gonna look 5 years down the road? Is it going to look like a native patch of 0 to 50
Yeah.
buffer zone? Or is it gonna look like more an ornamental extension of the lawn and the property?
Yeah, see, with the density that's being planted, it certainly couldn't be taken, you're not gonna be able to mow in between these plants. The idea is that it's gonna be, the clover and everything's just gonna take over, and the plants, they're planted in swaths, so they're gonna make thickets
Right.
of their species. And I mean, my goal is to make it look like a natural
Right.
environment
No,
there.
my
rather
concern
than a
is that
hodgepodge.
I'm seeing places where that goal isn't being reached. And-
I understand.
And you're seeing encroachment, you're seeing new property owners come in, and they're mowing it, and they're extending the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a growing problem that's being executed really in the name of invasive plant control. So I'm concerned about these type of projects.
Yeah, this here, I don't think you could mistakenly mow these. You'd have to be intentionally
Yeah.
out there plowing these under, which, if that was their intent, they could do that with the invasives there now.
Right.
I don't see how this could be anything but an improvement.
Well, I agree it's an improvement, I just don't know if it's really a naturalization of that habitat. That's what I'm concerned.
What plants do you see being more native than these?
I would just pick a proxy close by on Long Pond, and whatever's there, adopt what's there. And maybe not have so many species, but have those species that are living nearby, and have that patch.
I've been working in this area a long time, and I see all these species every day in those areas.
Right.
I mean, I'm usually criticized for not having enough species diversity, and you're saying
Well,
too many.
some of those seem a touch ornamental to me, so I don't know. Amy, I rely on you on these things. It looks to me like it's a big patch of landscaping. They're proposing mulching in the 0 to 50.
To clarify, mulching the base of each plant.
Right.
And then seeding the remainder of that with clover. That mulch circle enables those plants to get established
Right.
without excessive competition. There'd be no further mulching.
Well, it's a concern of mine in a no-disturb zone to have mulching. So it's, I don't know.
This is strictly for the sake of the health of the plants going in. It just makes it much more challenging for these, new plants to take if they're competing immediately
Yeah.
with grasses and things growing.
You've been before us a lot, you've done a lot of great work. I'm just speaking to what I've seen around town at other places, and it's a significant concern of mine to have folks do this in the name of invasive plant removal, and then to see that encroachment in the 0 to 50 over time. And so, I don't want to see that happen here. Amy, any thoughts on this concern of mine?
Yeah, no, I've met with the owners. Their intention is, they don't want a lot of lawn. They're actually reducing lawn by filling in some in the back over here as well. The species that are noted here are found in the area, and they are at a density where mowing and maintaining is not really gonna be a viable thing. Black chokeberry gets very big. And I think it's a good variety of different species, and I also think it's gonna provide food and habitat for things as well. The mulching, we typically don't allow it in the 0 to 50, but if you're just doing a natural thin layer of mulch right along the drip line of the plant, not a big circle around it, just around the drip line of the plant for the first year to help keep moisture in. I'm not opposed to that as long as it's natural, no chemicals, dye-free, very thin layer under our direction. However, I understand your point with the, excessive mulching that we do commonly see. But I think with this particular owner, having met with them, I think that they will follow things to the T, and I agree with the plant choices.
How can we condition this to avoid my concern of future encroachment? We often ask for a 3-year planting report.
Yep.
Is there something we can do in addition to that?
Well, so this is an RDA, so it's a little bit different. And I said RDA because I viewed it as an overall benefit compared to what's out there. Even though it is close to the wetland, they're not asking to do hardscape, they're asking to remove fencing and put in native plants, so that's why I directed them to do an RDA. So we can condition an annual monitoring report, but other than that, I think that's about it. I mean, unfortunately, if it's found that there is encroachment, it becomes a violation.
Is there any new hardscape in 0 to 50? Are there any granite pavers or anything?
No.
No?
No? All right, well, I remain concerned about this dynamic that I'm seeing, so to me, this project fits in that mold, and I think it's a borderline decision to have it as an RDA as opposed to an NOI also. So, all right, I've said enough.
Thank you, Brad. Jim?
No comment.
No comment.
Wayne? I just have a question about maintaining this, and Mark asked about the mow strip. Maybe mowing is effective long-term for ivy, but I question bittersweet, which will just send roots right under there, and the crows or whoever will drop the seeds. So is there a plan for longer-term maintenance, and should we be conditioning this somehow to allow over however many years annual maintenance removal of bittersweet, which if you let it go for a few years, it begins to get out of control?
I mean, a lot of their motivation is they want to get rid of the bittersweet, and my understanding in general is that the commission encourages someone who finds some bittersweet vine growing in their
Right.
in their yard to pull it, and that's where
Well,
they
if that's
would
what-
be.
But if there's herbicide intended, then
Yep.
they either have to come back here, or we have to include some provision for that.
If you want
in
to
the
do that,
order of
I've
conditions.
already asked for it for the established area that's not heavily invaded. There's just a few bittersweet vines in there, just to the east of the big 1,000-foot area. Okay, and that there, I think some of those, it's gonna make more sense to do the cut and swipe method, just because they're really tangled in deep. It'll be hard to get in and pull them. There's some of the ones established, but it's not an overwhelming situation there. Other side of the path, the west, this 1,000-foot path, there's not much anything left except, bittersweet and ivy. So we're already asking for permission to do some cut and swipe as needed, pulling where functional. And that's, I don't know if you need to make a perpetual condition to allow for that, but you don't usually need the cut and swipe method in a new planted area, because you have access to pull.
Yeah, it's a 3-year permit, that, we don't do extensions with RDAs, so,
Okay, all right, so
So
if
if it-
anything is required
yeah,
subsequently, it'll
Right.
be just
Okay.
right.
come back, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? From the public? Anyone online? In the room? Thank you.
Okay, hearing no further comments, I would like to make a motion that we approve the determination of applicability for 280 Long Pond Drive, map 103, parcel S3-2, with a -3 determination.
I'll second that motion.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
One opposed.
Okay.
What do you need?
COC?
Oh, Mr. Chair, so Mr. Cheney doesn't have to stay here for the entirety of the meeting. Can we jump real quick to the request for a certificate of compliance for an old permit for this property?
Sure.
That would be great.
Do we,
So
Go
there,
ahead.
sure, so there's a request for certificate of compliance for an outstanding permit that I found while we were talking about this project. And, hold on, I'm gonna find it. Same, Richard and Carol Stewart, 280 Long Pond Drive. It was a path, so this was the stones, several years ago, the set and the grade stones down to Long Pond. When I reviewed the RDA for this, I also reviewed that path, and I found the path to be in compliance with the order of conditions for that. It's just stones set in the dirt. And there were supposed to be. So I recommend a cert of compliance.
pardon me, any discussion? Okay, can we have a motion?
Do we need any discussion from
Any discussion from the public on a certificate of compliance for 280 Long Pond Drive? Hearing none,
Okay, I will make a motion that we authorize the issuing of a certificate of compliance for 280 Long Pond Drive, map 103, parcel SE-2. No, I'm sorry, S3-2, SE32-2291.
I'll second that motion.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yep, 6-0. Thank you. Next, we have a request for an amendment to an order of conditions at 25 Bellbrook Road, map 23, parcel X6, SE 32-2447 for the addition of a deck to a single-family dwelling.
Good evening, Dan Croto from Moran Engineering, here with the project contractor, Harry Ellis. So this is, so we're requesting an amendment to the existing order, and is to add to add a deck and a walkway out to the front. The property itself is in the floodplain, and then about 4 feet of the walkway that goes up to the front parking extends to 96 feet to the isolated wetland to the west. The area that the deck and the walkway are in have already been approved as clearing from the original order. And the area that was within the 100 feet to the setback to the vegetated wetland was added into the original mitigation. Now we're taking that lawn and asking to turn it into a deck, so it's kind of a double mitigation thing, but we are showing mitigation for taking, or the clearing, and then putting the raised walkway above it. So the main deck would be off the back of the house, which is all in the floodplain, and just the walkway that gets to the garage is gonna be within the 100 foot to the wetland. On that walkway will be, hoping to be a rinsing station, and plus we'll allow them to put the air conditioning condensing units up on that deck, which will be, which will meet the floodplain compliant for being up at the first floor level. So with that, I will ask if there's any questions.
Amy?
Sorry, Dan, I think I misheard you there. The proposed deck to the parking, you said is that elevated or on grade? Elevated,
That's elevated.
all right. By how much?
About 4 feet. I
Okay. We would still, it does go over the 100-foot line. We typically look at that as footprint anyways, which you're at 97 square feet. It's minimal, right at the 100-foot buffer. So as mitigation, you're proposing to leave some area as a no-mow, additional area as a no-mow zone. My only comment is I'd like to see them be allowed to manually remove invasives in that area. There's a lot of poplar coming up in there, and I think just discontinuing managing it will actually just perpetuate an infestation over there. So I'd like to see them be allowed to continue to manage invasives in that area manually. But other than that, I'd recommend approval of the amendment. It's very minor. It's between 95 and 100 feet from the wetland.
Okay, thank you. Wayne?
I don't have anything, it's pretty simple.
No comment.
No comments.
I agree with Amy.
No comments.
Okay. I just have one question, which it's questionable whether this is jurisdictional at all for us, but the one thing that struck me about this site is the hard pavement there. And while that's outside of the 100-foot buffer, there's likely to be serious runoff into our jurisdictional area. And I'm just wondering whether, I mean, the tarmac there between the garage and the house will drain into the 100-foot buffer and wash things out, is my take. Are there any provisions for that?
I think it's directed towards the front yard.
Right, I don't think anything goes to the back. It all
It's
comes,
graded
it all comes out.
to
The only thing,
west?
To the
west, right.
Okay,
Yeah.
go into that
If you look at
yard
if you
area.
look at the front of the garage, that's level all the way down, and then same with the back, it goes out level, and everything drains to the front yard and to the front driveway.
Okay, that was my only question. That's it. Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none.
Hearing none, I would like to make a motion that we approve the amendment to the order of conditions for 25 Bellbrook Road, map 23, parcel X6, SE 32-2447.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6-0, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Next, we have a request for an amendment to an order of conditions for 49 Saquatucket Bluffs Road, map 8, parcel G1-4, SE 32-2514 for elevated beach access staircase and patio reconfiguration. Looks like we have.
Good evening. For the record, Sean Riley with Ty and Bond. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you.
Great. So there's two parts to this proposal. There's a slight reconfiguration, modification to the proposed patio and terrace. If you can see the screen, what we previously had approved on the right was a more broad patio. And on the left is the currently proposed. It's gotten thinner in the center portion and a little broader, wider on the flanks. The result of the change, excuse me, is a net reduction of 198 square feet of coverage within the 50 to 100. It's reduced our required mitigation areas. We have not modified those mitigation areas. We've kept them the same. We've just slightly reconfigured them. You can see them in gray within the 50 to 100. And then we still have the full restoration of the 0 to 50 that we're working with Wilkinson Ecological. One other component that we've added on one of the patios on the left is a small shade structure that's completely within the footprint of the patio and reduced the size of the plunge pool. So that's it for the modifications to the patio. For anybody that's seen the second sheet, you can see why we're proposing to have modifications to the stair. Over the last winter, we've lost a good section of that stair. So we're proposing to do more of an elevated. You can see that from the photograph that the stair is starting to be inundated by the dunes. So we're looking to do more of an elevated landing, pulling this section back. You can see where the existing stair was. We're looking to pull the platform back and allow that dune to migrate underneath it. Proposing helical anchors underneath the new posts with a removable aluminum stair. The applicant is going to be a year-round resident, so they'd like access to the beach year-round. But they will be able to have the ability to remove that stair section in the event of any storms coming in their direction. The upper portion is to be just rebuilt in kind. We previously had approval to replace the entire stair in kind, but with the changes to the dune form, we've got a slight modification. We're not making anything wider or broader. Looking at it from plan view, it's the same general footprint with the landing and the configuration. Really, we're just pulling things back as the scouring of the dune has occurred. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Amy?
This is an improvement over what we've already approved. It's a reduction in the hardscape in the buffer zone for us. And the staircase, which we had allowed to be rebuilt in kind, needs some reconfiguration as they've shown. It'll be a little bit more resilient of a design in that they can remove the section of stairs should a storm be coming, and it'll be a little bit more elevated off the dune. And the helical anchors are fairly easy to install with minimal disturbance. So I would recommend approval of the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Sophia?
No more questions.
Brad?
Just thinking about the concept of it being removable and whether it would be, just how would that be worded? Just at their discretion with a storm coming? It wouldn't be done annually, because it seems like they want to have access in the off-season. So how would we actually word that?
I don't think we can really mandate that they do it, but it's just it's a thing for them to reduce potential for damage to their property. So,
We do require, docks and piers in some locations to come out, so I think we can.
Right.
If we think it's gonna be an impact to the resource area, but I'm just trying to think, if that would be impactful, just bring a
Could say
machine down
some-
there to remove it. With the
something-
helical piles, would it require a machine to remove it? I guess that's a
the
question.
helicals would not be removed. It's just the section of stairs going down that could either be lifted up or unscrewed off, but the helical piles would stay in.
Yeah.
It's just the,
They would not need equipment to remove that aluminum ladder. It comes in sections, so the railings would come out and they'd be able to just pull up the section of aluminum. It's really just a ladder to get down to the lower area, and they'd actually be able to bring it up and set it up on the upper platform, and it's easily removable. It's got a quick release pin at the top. And again, they've chosen this option at our direction rather than just having a replacement of a standard, wood stair that, could potentially end up, looking very much like this. So,
And like many others last winter, so this could be a design to keep an eye on to see how it works.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jim?
No further questions.
I have nothing. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay,
Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion that we approve the amendment to the order of conditions for 49 Saquatucket Bluffs Road, map 8, parcel G1-4, SE32-2514.
I'll second that.
further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6 and 0. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have a notice of intent for Hinckley's Pond, Herring River Headwaters, and Jenkins Bog, map 81, parcels G1, G2-1, G2-2, G2-3, and G2-4-1. And for Warner Bog, map 90, parcel B2 for ecological restoration.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you.
I am too, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Michael Locke, Executive Director of the Harwich Conservation Trust, the owner of the property first referenced at the corner of Headwaters Drive and Pleasant Lake Ave that includes approximately 19-acre retired bog and surrounding upland. That's a focus, one of the sites is a focus of this Hinckley's Pond, Herring River Headwaters Ecological Restoration Project. Also here is President of the Harwich Conservation Trust Board of Trustees, Tom Evans. And with us online is the representative representing the owner of the roughly 11-acre retired bog called the Warner Bog, which is part of a property on the other side of Hinckley's Pond being a roughly 174-acre great pond. And representing both parties with this ecological restoration process, seeking your review and approval of a notice of intent is Nick Nelson, who is Regional Director of Interfluve and a fluvial geomorphologist. And Nick will lead the presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I wanted to open to Jake Brown for a moment. Mr. Brown, do you want to say anything before we get started?
Thank you, Nick. I would just say, for the benefit of the board of the commission, we have owned Warner's Bog since about 1972. As we all know, it has become increasingly endemic to harvest cranberries. And when we heard that HCT was doing an ecological restoration of Jenkins Bog, we quickly agreed to partner with them. And going forward, our objective really is to have a mini oasis at the northwest corner of the pond, which can be enjoyed by all nature lovers for generations to come.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and the commission. If I could, I'll share my screen to begin the presentation. Okay. Okay, are you seeing the full screen with the introduction slide?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you all for taking the time to review this. This is an ecological restoration notice of intent request for the restoration of two cranberry bogs on either side of Hinkley's Pond, as Mike mentioned. Much of this will be similar in terms of the design elements to some of what you've seen at Cold Brook as well. So it's a bit of an extension of our collaboration and work with the Harwich Conservation Trust. So I'll walk through some of the elements here of the project, and then happy to answer any questions. So 2 sets of bogs on either side of Hinkley's Pond, as I mentioned. On the east side are the former Jenkins bogs. These are directly opposite of the Cape Cod Regional Technical School and adjacent to Route 124 and Headwaters Drive. And then on the western side is the Warner Bog, as Mike said, owned by the Brown family. Neither of these bogs have active streams flowing through them, so there is groundwater that comes in, but water levels are mostly dictated by groundwater and Hinkley's Pond itself. So a little bit different from the Cold Brook project in that there's no active stream flow moving through them. Project team, you've met the project team. Funding is through the EPA through a SNEP grant, as well as the Brown family. And our project goals, as Mike and Mr. Brown both mentioned, ecological restoration, improved water quality through these elements of restoration, but also for the Jenkins bog on the eastern side, to enhance passive recreational opportunities, and on the Warner bog on the western side, to maintain the privacy of the Brown family in their home there, but also to maintain the passive access that is currently happening on the dirt roads around there. So I'll start with the bogs on the eastern side, and this is a look at the existing conditions. Many of you recognize these bogs as we see them as we drive along Route 124. And the red dashed line is the approximate limits of proposed work. And you can see in the lower part here is the parking area that Harwich Conservation Trust installed once they acquired the property a couple of years ago. The equipment shed over here will remain throughout the project. The pump house that is currently adjacent to Hinkley's Pond, that will be removed as part of the project. And then we've got the rail trail here that you all know. This is an overview of the restoration designs, the proposed conditions, and similar to the Cold Brook ecological restoration, the focus here is to remove some sand in portions of these bogs, fill in some ditches, and create that topographic complexity. So some of that microtopography that you see. And then the additional element here also that you've seen at Cold Brook is this small pond. So that will be more sand and dug out in this area to about 6 feet in depth at the deep there. A couple of other elements here. The earthen berm and flow control structure that is in between these two bogs, that will be removed and will be replaced with a low boardwalk crossing through that area. So again, there's no active stream going through here, but there is, groundwater movement and vegetation that we hope to continue growing through this area. And then this red dashed line that you see around the perimeter, that's the plan for the location of the proposed fully accessible trail that would go all around both bogs and come from the parking area here as well. You'll notice that we are proposing 6 additional parking spaces next to the existing parking area, so that just expands into existing upland here. And then to have an overlook of the pond, the additional element is to add a ramp to get up to the bike path, and then another ramp down to an overlook on the other side. And I'll zoom into that area in the next slide here so you can look at that. The area with this hatching here, this is the area of sand removal. So there'll be some sand being removed from these areas. And in this hatch over here, no sand removal over here. This is where we don't see a whole lot of peat underneath the sand. There's a little bit, but not quite as much as elsewhere. So it'll be sort of a transition in elevations through here, which will add to the complexity of the ecological functions here. If we zoom in on the rail trail, we can see right down the middle here is the Cape Cod Rail Trail. The existing culvert that allows water to move back and forth between the pond over here, Hinckley's Pond, and the bog surface over here, that remains in place. So no digging up of the rail trail, no replacement of that culvert. That stays in as it is. Any boards that are in there, I think most of them have been removed, but all remaining boards will be removed as well. So there'll be no barrier to flow through that area. But there'll be accessible ramps built to be able to go from the trail network on the bogs up to the Cape Cod Rail Trail, and then again on the other side, a switchback trail to, again, fully accessible trail to get down to this location here, which is not an overlook in that it's not elevated at all. But the intent here is to remove the current pump house and infrastructure associated with the pump house, and in that footprint, and where there's current disturbance between that building and the large boulders next to the pond, that would be a surfaced stone dust surface there to allow for pedestrians and wheelchair users to look out over the pond and enjoy the view. The only other bit that I wanted to point out here is there's currently a dirt road that runs along here to which currently accesses this pump house over here. And the Harwich Conservation Trust would like to remove the ability of vehicles to drive all the way across there. And so this culvert would be removed, and a new channel would be graded to connect the pond and this small holding area where the culvert enters in underneath the Cape Cod Rail Trail. So a couple of different elements there. And then this is a look at the boardwalk in between the two bogs. This would be about 35 feet in length and about 6 feet wide. And again, would be able to connect the accessible trails on either side. And these are just a few of the details of the trail network and the handrails and overlook area. So you can see for the overlook, these are the existing boulders that are there. There's no intention to move those or disturb those. There'd be a wooden fence placed so that people can't get closer to the pond in that location, but then a resurfaced zone to be more stable. In terms of the planting plan through this area, relatively simple, where we're removing sand. That would be more of a shrub fen wetland with shrubs being planted throughout, and then forested wetland with some cedar trees and other trees planted in the area that sand is not being removed. And then transitional seed mix being proposed along the edges. Where the sand that is being removed from the bogs will go, that's the area here that you see. This is, if you've been to the site, it's an area that was excavated quite a bit to, I believe, to get sand to put onto the bogs. And so that sand would just go back into that hole. And there's also another area over here that has been disturbed to obtain sand for the bogs. There are some trees growing in this area, so this would be an area where sand would get put back into this location as well. moving to the western side, the water bog, again, we have the primary bog here, and then two smaller bogs on either side of the private home. And there's also a pump house right here. This project does not involve any removal of the building infrastructure at all. Those stay in place. But our proposed ecological restoration here includes the removal of the earthen berm and flow control structure, which is located here. Removal of this berm all the way to about here, so that these bogs are fully connected and not separated by a berm. And what this will do, it will remove the vehicle access all the way around this bog, which has posed some challenges for the landowners in this location with ATVs and dirt bikes zipping around here. So that would be removed. And then again, in this area of this pattern, this hexagonal pattern, that's an area of sand removal to get some of that anthropogenically placed sand off of the bog complex. All of that sand will go into the existing sand pit that's over here. And then the whole site would have microtopography, again, done like we've done elsewhere, and ditches filled and the areas planted. This dashed line here is where a proposed trail is being thought of here. This is not a formal boardwalk of sorts. The intent here was to have this more of like a bog planks, essentially, 2x10 or 2x12 plank that would go pretty close to the bog surface and allow plants to grow up around it, but not create a really wide disturbance. So this is not a fully accessible trail. This would be a pedestrian path through this area. And then the planting plan here, again, shrubs going into this wetland zone where sand is being removed, and then more trees and shrubs going elsewhere, with upland seed in the sand reuse area and transitional seed along the edge. And these are a list of the proposed trees and shrubs going into each area. We have the forested wetland area, mostly Atlantic white cedars, and then some of these shrubs, and then a mix of shrubs for the area where sand is being removed. Just to look at some other sites that have had similar work done. This is the work done on the Coonamessett River in Falmouth. You can see an accessible trail in the foreground. You can see the site after a couple of years of restoration in the background. And this is this was a couple of weeks ago, so this has been updated since, but this is the trail in Harwich at Cold Brook being installed currently. And again, this is the pretty raw site that we see at Cold Brook during construction. Again, this is a couple of weeks ago, and so even now there's more and more green coming up throughout this area as the spring progresses and we start to see plant growth throughout. So again, just some other project examples showing during construction and after construction, plants growing right up throughout this whole area. Okay. Finally, some resource area impacts. There's very minor bank throughout this area, not where the pond edge is just a small portion of that area being disturbed to remove that culvert at the Jenkins side. And then there is bank being added through that small open water area being proposed for the Jenkins bog. About 25 acres of bordering vegetation will be impacted through the sand removal and ditch filling and microtopography. And there'll be some loss of that because of the construction of the open water area, which is the land underwater shown here as 8 plus almost 1.5 acres. Project schedule, hoping to finish permitting through spring and summer, and then funding, pending funding approvals, construction fall, winter timeframe. And Mike or Jake, wanted to ask you if you wanted to have any follow-up to that, if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Nick, thanks for the presentation, and I want to also thank Jake and the Brown family for their partnership on this project and the support of the neighbors as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Amy?
If you could talk a little bit more about, so for conservation, we're concerned about potentially new activities in the wetlands. There are a lot of good activities happening in the wetlands here in terms of removing the restrictions, berms and culverts, and removing the fill that was done for the cranberry bog production and restoring the habitats there, which is all good things. But if you could talk a little bit more about what's happening in the 0 to 50-foot buffer zone to the wetland for the Jenkins Bog side, in terms of, and I apologize, we got the plans recently for new, the site plan, the original site plan did not show edge of wetland and the 50-foot buffer. We did receive those. I apologize, I don't have them here for you right now. But if you could talk a little bit more about that, because that's our no disturb zone.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll just share this screen again. This is what I just sent you.
Thank you.
Recently, we had the wetland boundaries identified previously, but not the 50-foot buffer there. So that is up there now. So in general, the primary disturbance within that 50-foot buffer is simply just access along the dirt roads that are surrounding the cranberry bogs. And the exception to that is the space right along Hinckley's Pond on the other side of the Cape Cod Rail Trail. And that's where that accessible ramp will be going down from the rail trail to what is currently the pump house in that area. And I do have a couple of photos. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this area, but I have a couple of photos of this area that might be helpful. This is kind of what it looks like right now when you look down from the rail trail, with this kind of erosion happening that comes out into the pond. And so this is that 50-foot buffer essentially from the pond edge to the edge of the rail trail.
Thank you.
And then, yep, and then, sorry, I just want to show you this one also. This is standing at the pipe intake to the pump house, looking along the pond edge. So this is the space where that overlook is proposed. This building would go away, and then the overlook would not adjust these boulders at all, but would go from the edge here and take up this space with the ramp just behind the building here.
The composition of the overlook, you have it as bluestone dust?
Yeah, right now it's the stabilized stone dust. We haven't gotten into the details of what that material is. So if there's some specifications that you would prefer in that zone, we can work with you on that.
I would just suggest something that potentially is still ADA compliant, but potentially a little bit more pervious, that does tend to compact pretty well, and that is right adjacent to the water. So if it's possible for something a little more pervious yet still compliant, that would be something I would suggest. And then whatever products that you do use, we just want to make sure that they're not going to be eroding into the pond, so if they're going to be retained in some fashion.
Great. Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. Overall, I think this is a huge benefit. Cold Brook is going splendidly. I get to see it pretty often. I have to go again soon. But overall, a great project to renaturalize the area, to create wetlands, which will have more diverse wildlife, more diverse plant species, and bring the area closer back to what it once was. So we do not have a DEP number for this, and we have not heard definitively back, I don't believe, from Natural Heritage with any conditions. So we cannot close the meeting tonight. I would recommend.
Yeah, and just
so.
an update on that. I've been trying to reach Natural Heritage, but they're very busy people. So I'll continue to try to get that loop closed. We've been communicating for a couple of years on that, and I'll let you know when I hear back.
I saw your correspondence. Yeah, we just need that letter.
Okay.
Before we vote.
Yep.
All set? Jim?
I have no further comments.
Brad?
So we just heard we can't vote on this tonight. What design stage you describe this at this point? It's preliminary, non-construction, but what design percent do you think we're at right now?
Yeah, I would say we're probably pretty close to 90% or so. We'll need to. My hope was that if there are any recommendations or requirements through this meeting and permitting process, that we'd be able to evaluate those and wrap those in, and then just that kind of final 10 to 15% to get it to the finals.
Thanks. And then a couple points on the pond. Just want to confirm, there is no conduit for the pond to Hinckley's. There's a culvert there, but it's going to be buried, not functional?
No, that culvert will remain open.
Oh,
So
for flow to exchange to Hinckley's?
that's right. So here, let me just scroll up here. Here we go. Right, so the current culvert that is underneath the rail trail here will remain as it is and will connect this new open water area with Hinckley's Pond, with the intent that if there are American eel that might be interested in these environments or other organisms, that water will be able to freely pass back and forth.
Okay, that's something worth considering. What is the depth again of the pond?
At the deepest, it's about 6 feet, and along the edges, that's more in the 1 to 2 feet along the edges.
Yeah, I'm not sure. In the pond will interact with groundwater or no?
Well, yes, there's groundwater that in general, the groundwater is kind of coming in this direction, in this region. So it'll come in likely on this northern side and eventually work its way into the pond here.
Okay. So if you're thinking about eel habitat, why was such a small size selected? It's 1.4 acres, which is tiny. Any thought to a larger pond?
Well, I think our hope was to have a diversity of ecosystems here. This is an area where there was some peat underneath, and the hope was to have combination of open water, but also to have wetland habitat throughout this whole area.
All right, well, that's something I'll probably just think about and at the next hearing, just to, if the target would be migratory fish, then I think, just want to think about whether that's optimal, whether a larger size might be beneficial, whether you even want fish to go in there. Could it be prone to summertime anoxia? Those type of questions. But otherwise, it's a nice...
Yeah, those are...
Sorry.
Really good questions, Brad. I was just going to say, those are the great questions, and I think the other concern is just volume of sand and where to put it. So if that pond gets much bigger, it starts to really increase the volume of removal, which we'd need to find a place for and the cost for that. So it's sort of managing those two things as well, with the potential eel habitat sort of being a bonus opportunity here.
Right. Yeah, it's nice to have the ability to play around with those concepts. So, all right, well, I think that's all I have, and that's something I'll be thinking about for the next hearing.
Great.
All set?
One question. In the test borings that you did throughout the project, is it likely that there was any other place that may have been a bowl or a pond earlier on? Or any evidence of?
Yeah, so we saw a pretty deep peat right where this existing pond is here. There's also, can't remember the exact depth, but several feet of peat in the smaller bog over here, closer to 124. And so we're removing some sand through here, but not, we didn't want an isolated pond over here. So we wanted some sort of positive drainage all the way through the site.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I don't have any questions or comments. Do we have anyone in the public care to ask questions or make comments?
Let me move the podium.
And Mr. Chairman, sorry. Alan Hall, if I
Go
may.
ahead, Alan.
I just wanted to know, what's the elevation on the bog compared to the pond? How high up from the pond is the bog level elevation?
And by pond, are you referring to the elevation of Hinckley's Pond?
Yes, how much lift is it to the pond grade to the bog, top of bog?
Let me just check here. Current bog surface is right around 30 feet or just a touch under 30 feet. And not sure I can go, let me see. A pond, where the overlook would be, that is right around 29.8 feet in elevation.
So it's only a foot different to the bog?
Approximately where the overlook area is. So that's sort of that beach area, the sandy area next to the pond.
Only reason, and I heard you're gonna keep the culvert underneath the railroad tracks.
Correct.
Like that. So that railroad track, that was all filled in at one time. That wasn't there. That was man-made when they put the railroad through there. So any consideration about that being, I know you're leaving the culvert, but my question, I guess, is when you create a pond in that elevation, any consideration in filling in all the ditches, and then there's still gonna be standing water through there, how do we address mosquitoes?
Yeah, good question, and this comes up a lot with these restoration projects. What we've seen in other projects and what we're currently seeing at Cold Brook is just an explosion of other life that eats mosquitoes and larvae. So we see, there's a ton of birds and bats at Cold Brook right now that are coming in, and at other sites we see that happening as well. So yes, there'll be some standing water here. There's currently standing water in various spots along these bogs. So we see that condition currently as well. But we see through the restoration a real revitalization of the other wildlife and elements of the ecosystem that help to control those insects.
And then one other question. That property, the bog to the north of that, heading towards the Pleasant Lake General Store in the apex there, that was grown abandoned. What is the difference of that bog being grown up. How much habitat is in that bog now existing compared to what we're gonna achieve by doing this restoration? Is there a significant difference by doing the restoration, or just, if we were to just let it grow up and be natural state like the bog at the apex? How much, what is the,
Yeah, I think when I've walked in there a bit, I've seen mostly pine trees through that area and more upland type species of plants. So it's certainly, it's habitat, it's a viable ecosystem that is happening over there, but it's more of an upland ecosystem. So the goal here is, through the sand removal, ditch filling, and microtopography, is that we can regain some of that wetland habitat that may have been here prior.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone else online who would like to speak, ask questions, make comments? Hearing none, are there those in the room who would like to speak? Yes, sir. Please go to the podium, identify yourself, and
My name's Everett Eldridge. I live on the south side of Warner Bog. And Nick, thank you. One thing that hasn't been discussed, but I'm in love with the ecosystem that I've been beside for the past 40+ years. And right now in the bog, it's viable, it's beautiful. On the east side, that channel, that ditch there, that's got probably 5 to 8 snapping turtles. Some are quite large, and there's various sizes there. And then on the west side, the canal there is, there's probably 8 to 10 spotted turtles, which are not critically, they're on the endangered list of critical concern. But, and there's painted turtles there as well. And there's another area in the bog that this is. There are no more muskrats down there, which is kind of sad to see. But the deer are viable, the birds, I put up 5 birdhouses down there. I've got 4 swallows, and one of them in one bluebird and one the other. So I'm thrilled about that. My question is, how do you manage this wildlife as you're stripping this area? I mean, we want to not shoot ourselves in the foot in this for sure. And it's critically important if maybe another habitat area be made for the painted turtles or whatever in the meantime. But it's something that should definitely be of good concern for this group.
thank you.
Great question, and thank you very much, Everett. I think this is, again, something that we need to evaluate and think about for all of these restoration projects. And at Cold Brook, what we're seeing and throughout the restoration efforts, 9-10 months of construction, is we see deer throughout the site and coyotes throughout the site during construction. So they are there and they'll continue to be there. Those are animals that will be able to move in and out, and certainly there's a disturbance during the construction period, but long-term viability, they'll still be present on the landscape. Turtles, frogs, other organisms that might be in those ditches. Again, those are organisms that they're during construction. If we see a large snapping turtle, I've seen excavator operators pick those up with their excavator buckets and move them out of the way while they're doing their work, and then put them into a place that's safer. I've personally moved them as well. So there are some of those animals that we can move if we see them. I won't try to say that no animals will be impacted. Certainly through this work, there will be individual animals that will be impacted, killed, injured in those ditches. There's no way of getting around that in terms of those frogs and turtles and things like that. What we have seen through these projects is that afterwards, this is a vibrant place for all of these same animals to survive. So those turtles often are able to, burrow in and come back out. They're able to survive in the ecosystems that are created afterwards. Right now at Cold Brook, we have almost 20 box turtles that are just emerging from their winter hibernation and are coming out into a whole new landscape. And they're starting to find new habitat that they're going into right now as well. So it's definitely something that we encounter on all of these projects. And operators and folks that are overseeing construction, you know, we do our best to move the critters out that we see that might be in danger, but we know that we can't get all of them.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I mean, is there a protocol in place that you guys follow in dealing with these animals? I mean, you say if you can see them, you can't see majority of the turtles. It's coming in the fall, most of the turtles are gonna mud in. There's gotta be some help to keep these guys alive or keep the habitat moving.
Right, yeah, there's no protocols or requirements from the state or federal agencies when they're not listed. So like for the box turtle, there were lots of protocols with that because that is a listed species, an endangered species. But for the others, the more common species, there's no particular protocol with the various state agencies for that. So any sort of rescue operation or management of that is more, it's typically been done by the folks that are on the ground and on their own volition.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Anyone
Everett.
else? Go ahead. Oh, anyone else in the room?
Thank you. John Wishart, 76 Lakewood Drive. My comment is on the pond. I just feel like you're connecting a man-made pond to a pristine cold water pond that is certainly going to go anoxic at 6 feet, probably quickly to 5 feet, depending on the groundwater levels. I would like to see some perhaps mechanisms, maybe a fountain or something to aerate it or dig it deeper would be my suggestions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Anything further? Yes, sir.
Excuse me, I have one other thing I wanted to add, Nick, but you may be aware of or not. But on the east side where my property starts here on the pond, that's how I get my electricity. It comes from Mr. Brown's, and it comes right along that dirt road right out in front. So that's going to be something to have fun with, I guess.
Yes, no, I think we've got that noted on the plans, and that will be in conjunction with the selected contractor working to identify where that is exactly and put it underneath the new ground surface during the project.
Okay, anything further? Any further discussion from the commission? So, we need to talk about
Date,
continuation date.
Next available date would be 2 weeks from now on June 5th. I don't know if you'd like to shoot for that. I'm not sure with a turnaround for Heritage or DEP. I saw that the submittal to DEP was the 13th of May. And I know that they sometimes can take their 30 days, but it would either be the 5th or I actually think it's June 20th. I think we have a weird holiday in June and we actually meet on a Thursday later in the month.
I might suggest the 20th, just so I can have a little bit more time to try to work with Natural Heritage on this one. And I'll be in touch with you, Amy.
Yep.
As that moves along. Mike, does that work for you?
June 20th.
Yes, it does. Thanks, Nick.
And I will confirm that it's the 20th and not the 19th, but I feel like there's 19th is the Juneteenth holiday, so we wouldn't, okay. So it'd be June 20th, like we said.
Great. And I guess I would just ask you, Amy, and maybe Brad, it sounded like you were going to think about a few things as well. If you can reach out within this time period if there are other things that you'd like to discuss regarding the designs. Let's chat about that.
Will do.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a motion for
Yes.
continuance.
Yes, I will move that we continue the public hearing on the notice of intent for the Hinkley Pond, Herring River Headwaters, Jenkins Bog, map 8-1, parcel G1, G2-1, G2-2, G2-3, and G2-4-1, and Jacob Brown 2, Warner Bog, map 90, parcel B2, ecological restoration.
Can we have a second?
Well, wait till our meeting of June 20th, 2024.
I'll second it. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0. Okay, thank you. Continuing on here, we have a notice of intent for 3 Longview Lane, map 104, parcel N3-2, to construct an elevated timber stairway with landings over existing footpath to pond.
I'll take them. You guys can always scan them too and send, you can scan and email them to us now too, if you want, going forward.
Post-COVID, I'm not sure, Good evening. For the record, I'm John O'Reilly. With me is Jack Wisenhart, who's with Coastline Construction, who'll be doing the work and is working for the Hembros. They have recently purchased the property and are looking to improve their access to the pond. So what we've done is designed an elevated stairway that's, I think, is in keeping with your policy as far as keeping it 2 feet above the ground, 4 feet in width, and trying to maintain the structure as small as possible. So what we're trying to do here is to take advantage of a footpath that the previous owners had created over the years. And the reason the footpath is there is that there is a second means of access to the pond. It's a set of timber stairs at grade, which are not safe, and have fallen into quite a bit of disrepair. So what we're looking to do is abandon those stairs in place, and I'll get to that in a minute, and then construct this elevated stairway, which will allow them to get put on the bottom of the slope, at the bottom of the slope, and then be able to walk out to the pond, where the existing stairway dumps you right on top of the coast, inland bank, and then right at the pond. Water comes right up to the bottom of the slope. So our resources are, should have started with that, is certainly Long Pond, a great pond. We do have an inland bank along the shoreline, which we've used to establish the 50 and 100-foot buffer zones. We are providing the necessary 3-to-1 mitigation because the stairway is located within the 0 to 50-foot buffer, and we're proposing a series of native shrubs and ground cover that is going to buffer and improve the vegetated buffer along the pond's edge. So in my narrative, I do have some, I guess you could call a construction protocol, at least the step-by-step, how I envision these stairs being built. I also have conservation notes and then mitigation notes which outline the plants. We were fortunate enough to have Amy provide some comment last week, which allowed us to make a revised revision to the plan. You should all be looking at a plan that was dated May 16th. And we incorporated comments that Amy had made. They were relative to the types of shrubs that were originally shown, so we've taken her recommendation and made those switches. And then with regards to the stairway,
I was originally proposing letting the stairway go over the way of nature. And in talking with Amy, we've come up with another proposal, and that would be to simply leaving the timber structure there in place, removing the treads, and then periodically planting some small sweet pepper bush on alternating sides of the stairway and alternating steps, and then let nature take its course. I think we both agree that trying to remove the timber because of the steepness of the slope, we'd be really battling an uphill, we'd be dealing with an uphill battle. So that's the approach we've taken. I will let you know that the other improvement we are doing is we are removing the hot tub. It may be gone now, but we are removing it. And we did not take advantage of the removal of the spa to offset the mitigation that's required for the new structure, so I think we've kind of belt and suspended the mitigation proposal. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I did check, we have not heard back from Natural Heritage yet, so unfortunately, if we're in a position to close, we can't, or you can't. But at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Amy?
Thank you for catching that last piece, because I didn't. I'll focus mainly on the abandonment of the set of stairs there. The set of stairs is extremely steep. It's on a very steep, high, north-facing slope that is very treed and shady. So to fully remove the stairs, stringers, and everything like that, would leave it denuded, and with experience on this pond of trying to revegetate such slopes, it'd be extremely hard to do. So instead of completely removing everything, if you leave the stringers and post supports in place, it might provide a little bit of support to keep it held. But by planting with some sweet pepper bush in between things, it would help it naturalize over time and also dissuade people from continued use of that. I mean, if you looked at it, you wouldn't want to go down it, but you know, some adventurous folks might want to, and it's very hazardous. So they have a adequate means of access to the pond where you've shown. It is extremely steep there as well and hard to navigate, so a raised set of stairs would be the most applicable way to get down, which is what you've proposed. And the plantings, the new plantings that you proposed, the configuration, everything looks good. So I would have liked to have recommended approval, but we have to wait for Heritage, so.
But you still can.
I will recommend it pending Heritage approval. So our next meeting, once we get to it, our next meeting is what, June 5th? Yeah. No further comment.
Sophia?
I don't have any comments. I think I like Amy's suggestions for the plant tweaks, and that's about it.
No comments.
No comments. No further comments.
No
John.
comment. Sorry, no comments.
Mr. Chase, you're scaring me. This is the second meeting in a row that you've had no comments on.
No, I apologize for that. I was trying hard.
I'm not challenging you.
I think I just got up too early this morning.
Okay.
Running out of gas.
Okay, any comments or questions from the public online? Hearing nothing online, in the room?
Okay, before I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, have we agreed we're continuing this to our June 5th meeting?
I think we should try it.
I'm out of town, but
Oh.
Jack will be here, because I think we've, obviously answered all
Okay,
the
so
questions.
is
So we're
that
just waiting
agreeable?
for that one.
Seems like a formality.
Okay, then
That's Heritage.
I will make a motion that we continue the public hearing on the, excuse me just for a second, on the notice of intent for 3 Longview Lane, map 104, parcel N3-2, to our meeting of June 5th, 2024.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6 and 0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Two.
Next, we have a notice of intent for 60 Harbor Road, map 15, parcel C2-B1 for maintenance dredging.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Leo Kokunis. I am officially the applicant, here representing the owner, which is 60 Harbor Road Realty Trust. Joining me, if you will, Mr. Chairman, is Mark Burgess from Shorefront Consulting. I believe he is, yep, he's up there on the left. So if there are any technical questions, he's going to be the guy that's going to help. I've been a property manager of this property for some 20-plus years. The previous owners had a dredging permit and had dredged the property, I believe, 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. It's a maintenance situation. We're back here again. The DEP permit, number 13528, is extended until October 6th of 2024. As you guys know well better than I, the DEP permits and the towns don't often run in conjunction with each other. So we're in front of you here today to apply for a maintenance dredging permit. I have filed and given you in your packets the large plan that shows the original permitted area, and we intend on staying within all those guidelines on that plan. Also, I do believe you have in your packets what you refer to, or as I'm going to refer to as a existing bottom profile. This plan was done about 2 weeks ago to show you where the existing sediment has come in and how we are trying to remove that and where we would be removing it from. The top elevation of the plan, and I'm looking at this one here, those of you that have it. The top elevation shows the existing permit that was filed way back. And then we took that and superimposed on the bottom cross-section of the existing ground, and then in red, the proposed excavation or dredging that we would like to do. Most of the information, I think that if you have any questions, is going to be on here on the plan. And I think it's pretty simple. Basically, I don't know what else I need to add other than that. Oh, the cards. Do you want the cards?
I'll take them when you're done.
Okay.
That's fine.
I can also give you I don't know if you want the physical cards or if you want me to give you a.
Electronic is
copies.
wonderful.
I have it. I'll get it to you
Thanks.
tomorrow morning then.
Yep.
Rather than hand you, or I can hand you the cards.
Whichever you prefer.
I
Maybe
have-
Mark can talk a little bit about his methodology.
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, for the record, Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting. The way that we did this existing conditions survey was very simply old school. Tape measure and a depth gauge. You go out every so many feet and plot the depth, and then I just turn that into an elevation. The top view shows the original plan, and the math below it is in red. So just to come up with their volume, I needed a distance that they use, so that came out to 94.7 square feet, and I just reverse mathed the area under the curve that AutoCAD tells me it is for the same 94.7 linear feet. So simply area times length gives us a volume. So we have a maintenance dredge volume of 61 plus or minus cubic yards. The section line that we did was done in the exact same location as the original section line. So it's apples to apples, a direct and corresponding correlation and comparison. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
You're welcome.
Mark, I know you probably didn't do any in-depth sediment analysis, but can you tell me about the sediment that you did find there?
Sure. Landward of the float, it was a little spongy, and directly seaward of the float, it was more firm. And then when we get out closer to the -5, it started to get spongy again.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this, under the previous owner, the old permit to dredge lapsed. When Mr. Kukunis and I looked at that permit, their old notice of intent, or order of conditions rather, there was no maintenance provision in the Conservation Commission's order for it. So technically, they are valid with the state until October to do this dredging. However, ours lapsed, so we couldn't very well go ahead and let them dredge without a permit from conservation. To kind of put a crunch on getting the exact volume that was needed to be dredged done, so thank you for doing that expeditiously. The dredge footprint hasn't changed than what we approved 10-ish years ago. It is more than 25 feet from the salt marsh. You're dredging to a -3 at mean low water.
-4, I believe, and then 5 over.
Okay. Okay, yes, I see that.
-4 with 1 foot.
-4 with a 1 foot potential overdredge. With the 1 foot potential overdredge, that leaves you at about how many cubic yards?
61.
Oh, okay. Still 60. Okay, so that's maximum.
Maximum.
It's a little unconventional, but I think it worked for the purposes that we have here in front of us tonight. Because you had an existing approved plan and you're staying within that area. My thought was just having them find out what existing that they had to dredge was. It seems like this only needs to get dredged once every 8 to 10 years, maybe. There's not a lot of sedimentation happening here, so it's an infrequent dredge amount. I have no questions.
Mr. Chairman, may I just add to that too, in doing all of this work, I have discovered, and I plan to, and the owners plan to work with Amy, and we've also contacted the neighbors. I would like to see all 4 or 5 neighbors, especially from the town dock down past us, kind of work together more, even though they all have dredge permits individually, that it'd be great if we could coordinate it so it was under one person's guidance so that all the properties could dredge at the same time. Because it seems kind of, I don't know, redundant, if you will, to do all this and come in and just dredge in front of this dock, and then next year the guy next to me is going to be dredging in front of his dock. It's something that I think the town should probably look at, and maybe I can work with Amy. I've already talked to the other neighbors, and they're very happy to as we pursue this and move forward, work together.
So do you, Amy, know the history of dredging in the neighboring docks?
I can't speak to it off the cuff.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a lot of dredging occurring on that shore for the commission in the last 15 years, so.
Well, there is,
They're doing the harbor now, the entrance.
The channel, sure, that's
Yeah,
a
the
whole
channel.
different animal.
property to the west of this, actually, I think, Mark, that was your project, I believe. I believe that they had dredging. But the properties, to the south of this, I'm not as familiar with. So
Yeah.
I know the Maher property, which is right adjacent to the town, just north of the commercial dock, they don't have dredging. They have a longer dock length,
Right.
because they couldn't dredge. So I'm not sure about those couple.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's a possibility.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not suggesting that we do it under one permit. I just
At the
think
same
it would
time.
be smart
It
that we
makes
do it at the
sense
same time, that's
to
all.
do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Is it even allowed? I mean, is maintenance dredging allowed at those properties? Or would it be a new permit?
They might be, but they would have to coordinate together going forward if they wanted their timing to be
Right.
correct.
I think
They
that-
each need their own permits. I think
Yeah.
Leo's just saying,
Yeah.
when they
it
come down to
happens.
doing it, they do it at the same time.
It makes sense from a standpoint of mobilizing the gear,
Yeah,
but that shore has significant shellfish habitat, so it would need to be carefully reviewed
yep,
as to, you know,
yep.
how it would go forward.
Yeah, this piece of property, as you can see in the plan, we're 25 feet plus to the inside of the dock from the wetland habitat, if you will. And I think that's also the case as you go around to the north, too. I'm not too sure about where the town's shellfish thing is there. I think that's.
The north and northeast side of Witchmere Harbor is pretty
Yeah.
good shellfish habitat.
Okay, so let's go around. Wayne?
I don't have anything. No additional comment.
Couple comments. Do we have an as-built for the last time this was dredged?
We did not get one.
No.
And that's why another reason to get something more updated and not just say, okay, maintenance dredge.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty important. Do we
So
have a
that-
date? Do we know the date when it was done last? We hear
We
about
had-
10 years.
I don't have the old file with
I
me, I
don't
just
have
have
the- I
this
don't-
file. I'm not
I
sure.
might have- It was 10 years, it was,
Yeah.
Well, actually, your base plan, that's when your base plan was done roughly, but when it was actually done, I don't know. Because when it was, so it
I'm
was
wondering-
2010 was the plan,
Yeah,
but I don't think they dredged I don't think they dredged then.
yeah.
I think they dredged a few years after.
This is dated 7/25/2011
Right.
at the bottom.
Right.
So one thing that comes to my mind right away is we have a longitudinal profile, but not a plan view of the dredge footprint, which I think.
this one here.
Oh, there it
It's the
is.
same,
You have it.
I didn't see it in my file. Is it in the Dropbox?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I didn't see that. Give me a second then.
Here, can you just look at this?
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that's what we need, and, obviously conditioning for an as-built makes sense.
Yes, we would
Yeah.
we always condition for an as-built
Yeah.
dredge survey.
Yeah. Okay. Any plans in this area for shellfish resources? Certainly, you'd want the activity to occur outside of spawning periods, off-season.
Right now, we have a situation where, that's why they stopped the channel dredging, because there was,
Winter flounder.
Winter flounder.
no, the other one near the hard shelf.
Oh, the horseshoe.
Oh, horseshoe crabs.
But they have a go-ahead now, June 1st.
Yeah.
But, and again, that's more out towards the mouth, I guess, towards the
Right.
mouth.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get this in.
I'd like to get this in,
Yeah.
relatively in coordination with the opening of the,
Oh, I see.
the harbor itself. 'Cause
See, I
people are
don't-
having a hard time, I guess the fishing boats are having a hard time getting in there right now. They're
Wow.
pretty upset that that got stopped,
Hmm.
Yeah, so real active time right now for aquatic life. That winter flounder closure, I'm sure winter flounder was part of it. So they negotiated a June 1st allowance to dredge the channel?
That's what I heard, so I'm not really involved with it, but I heard from the dredge guys that
Yeah.
they are going to be in there starting up again June 1st.
Mark, do you expect any limitations from the state or federal level on the timing for this type of dredging?
no, I don't. If, obviously, if they're doing other dredging in the same embayment, then they're going to be following suit. I think Mr. Kukunis wants to dredge basically almost exactly the same time.
Yeah. It's not ideal, but I think it makes sense to mirror what's being required nearby.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of things active this time of year. So you're talking about after June 1st?
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends on when I can get the dredge.
You're right.
A lot of these guys just getting work is tough too.
Yeah.
Because your waterways permit,
And we're not gonna be able to get in anyhow.
your waterways permit says no dredging between January 15th and May 31st.
June 15th
Until,
Oh, January,
to May 31st.
yeah,
Yep.
from January 15th to May 31st. Yeah,
so it'd be June
right,
1st.
so June 1st, yeah,
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with that, but who am I to contradict the feds and the state agencies?
Yeah.
There's a lot of biological activity in June
Mhm.
in that area for shellfish spawning and all kinds of other creatures. So do you have to go before Chapter 91 to get that revised?
No,
I don't believe so.
not for the date, he doesn't have to have a date change, because it's, May 31st is, he can,
That permit's valid for another half a year or so,
yep.
right?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Well, I think maybe some discussion on what could be done with shellfish resources that are dredged out. Are there any contingencies, Mark, that you deal with in these type of harbor dredging projects for shellfish that are drawn out?
In other towns, they would require a shellfish person to remove the shellfish from the dredge footprint and relocate it off to the side.
Yeah.
Before the dredging occurs. And that can be done by, I mean, I've got a shellfish guy who does my shellfish surveys. He's a shellfish grant operator, and he's qualified, in my opinion, to do that, and he could get to it fairly quickly.
Yeah. Would it be a conflict if I did it? That's a joke.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't mind digging them out of there and, you know.
That's a joke.
Well,
So, Brad.
There's a fair
Yeah.
amount of cohorts
Not-
in the area.
Right.
And so I think if we had a condition to that, and I think that'd be a good idea. Heinz Prof used to recommend that for years.
Yep.
So I think some condition to try to remove what's there before the work is a good idea.
How do they do that deep? I mean, I'm used to people shellfishing in a foot of water, not 5 feet. Do they actually pull them out while the
It's-
dredge is doing it?
It's pretty shallow. I mean, you can get out there in waders all around there. I've clammed around there forever. I mean, somebody can get out there
Yeah.
with a longer rake and waders and cover most of the footprint. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
I never shellfished
Yep.
in 3 feet
Yeah.
or 5 feet of water, 4 feet of water.
The only place I don't dig around
And
there is under the float.
Mm.
It's degraded habitat under that float. All the other floats around there.
It is a good habitat, or it's not?
Degraded.
Yeah.
It's siltier directly under the float, given the float and the boat interactions with the substrate.
And the shellfish relocation, on a non-serious note, doesn't mean relocating it to a basket or the bed of your pickup truck. It means casting it off to the side.
Fair enough. All right, so I think that's the only conditions I'm interested in, is the as-built and then have removals beforehand.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
No remarks.
Sophia? I have nothing.
So the one hiccup that I didn't think about until now is that if we approve tonight, we usually take 2 weeks to draft the special condition, the order of conditions for this, and have you sign it, and have you have one thing we could do, I know you're on a time crunch, next week, we are proposing to have a public hearing on the Bell's Neck. At the very tail end of that, after the public hearing, we could throw an order of conditions on there and have it out next week.
Well, just to counter that, June 5th isn't that
It's
long
not.
after June 1st.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Leo's not certain how he's gonna get a dredge in there.
I'm not certain how we're gonna get a boat in there until the, you know, the main entranceway is cleared out anyhow. So, from what I'm hearing from the fishermen, it's pretty bad low tide. That's why they got the county dredge sitting there, so.
Okay.
Whatever we can do to move it forward, I'd appreciate it.
I don't have any objection to tacking it on to next week's, assuming. we
It's
end
not a
up-
heavy lift for the conditions for this one, so.
I'm sorry?
It's not a heavy lift for me to do it, to get that draft order ready for that, if you're willing to put that on at the very end of the, it's up to you.
Let's do it.
And one quick question, it's a standard 3-year notice of intent.
You could, and then it could be, so we'll have post-dredge survey, and the condition could consider maintenance dredging. At the time of request for a certificate of compliance, they could request, the applicant can request maintenance.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll be in the same position I'm in right now.
In 3
'cause
years,
I didn't
yeah.
think to ask that 10 years ago, to have the language for maintenance being there.
Yeah.
That's why I had to file for a notice of intent, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's my preference anyways, that it does go that way. I'm interested because it seems to be a frequency I wouldn't expect for this location. It's a little more frequent than I would expect. So it's curious. So I think getting a trail with an as-built is pretty important, and just documenting what happens. And having good records on what was taken out. Yeah, we could all learn from this.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
But let's make sure there are no other comments or questions. Anybody care to comment? Okay, I don't hear any.
Okay, I move that we approve the notice of intent for 60 Harbor Road Realty Trust, 60 Harbor Road, map 15, parcel C2-B1, for maintenance dredging with the conditions of requiring an as-built survey, as well as shellfish removal by a qualified shellfisherman. With, I would also like to add a narrative report associated with the as-built plan on
Okay.
dredging activity.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
6-0.
I will let you people know that have been around for 25 years and longer that we threw a little bit of a scare to people in Harwichport, South Harwich, because they thought I was moving back into the neighborhood. But-
Not surprised.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Excuse myself for just a minute.
Okay,
We'll fly through the rest.
Yeah, we're going to.
we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
That's appropriate. I shall return before the end of 5 minutes.
What are you doing for Memorial Weekend, Amy? Anything?
I am going to the Cape Cod Cares for the Troops event on Sunday over behind, it's gonna be behind the mall this time,
Oh, okay, yeah.
with
okay.
Hearts and Paws Comfort Dogs. So you'll,
Behind the mall.
it's, yeah, not
On
at
the
the,
backside of the regular mall.
yeah, it's not at the old Kmart Plaza anymore because of work, so it's on the back side of the mall.
That's good to know.
We're doing that. And then, yeah, I have a friend coming down. How about you?
Well, now that I remembered that, you said that, I'll be up there too, but.
Yeah, I'm only gonna be there
Probably.
from like noon until like 3. We're only doing a
Doing
couple
stuff
hours.
around the house, property. Not going to Maine, that's for sure. The traffic will be horrendous.
I have a friend coming down from New Hampshire. I'm like, Good luck.
Yeah, really.
The traffic's already gotten worse the past few days.
Yeah.
We were driving onto the Cape this morning, and it was kind of a mess.
Was it really?
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't,
busier. It's busier.
the problem wasn't the bridge. It was just, they were doing some strange construction just before the 132 exit.
That helps.
They had a lane closed. It was,
And I guess they're doing night work here, so I mean, I go back roads anyways, home, but I have to remember to do back roads and not jump on the highway. Yeah, don't jump on the highway. I heard they're doing I think they're doing night work. Sorry.
It's okay.
But good that you know now.
Yes. It's the last thing I wanted to
I'm
do.
not
Shut
sure.
it
I've been
down.
seeing signs for it, and I know that they've been shutting
Is
it down.
further up?
It was between 9 and 12. I still use those numbers.
I don't know any of the new numbers.
No.
I go all old numbers. I'm old school. I haven't taken 8 pages of notes. I
Wow.
think I'm taking too many.
No, we'll whittle it down. It's a long meeting. This is a long meeting. But I don't think the rest will take all that long.
so you're using a different process for generating minutes? You're taking notes at the meeting?
I thought it would be helpful. Heather's new, our new executive assistant, and not knowing a lot of the background, we thought it'd be good for her to come to a meeting and learn that way and take minutes as she goes. Yeah.
What happened?
But it will help in the long run, I think.
Yeah.
At least to do a few.
Yeah.
This way. You're staring at.
I'm sorry?
You glazed over. It feels late. It feels later than 8:30. It feels it's bedtime.
My bedtime's at 9:30.
Mine too.
My watch, my phone will actually tell me it's your bedtime.
Mine will say that too.
I love it.
You should be reading now. Not this. All right.
Okay.
Get going.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is a request for an extension permit for 4 Braddock Street, map 7, parcel F17, SE 32-2451 for beach maintenance.
I guess everybody left. I'm David Plunkett, by the way. I'm the 50% owner. Greg Winston's name is on the application here, but he spent the day in the hospital and had a ankle injury or something and is on pain meds. So he's
I
not
saw
here.
him the other day. It
He
was
having a
pretty
hard time,
swollen. Yeah.
So he finally had to go and they did all kinds of tests.
I'm glad he got it taken care of.
Yeah, so he wasn't able to come tonight, so he asked me to come. And it's just the extension of our beach maintenance permit that we had previous for the past 3 years.
So, I'll just quickly summarize and feel free and fill in the blanks if that works for you. So what they do is it's usually just once annually, you have a company come with a skid steer and with a rake attachment on the back and rake your beach. You also, in the wintertime, are able to put up snow fencing in which you capture some sand, which was very good this year because we lost so much sand. But they capture sand, they do smooth that sand out. And the rest of it, from what you've described to me, is mostly hand raking, because it's a smallish section at the tide line, but when you get a large amount of seaweed, you do rake that up. To my understanding, you keep all of it on site.
Right.
Or direct it a little bit back into the water in some cases.
If it's right in the water there,
Yeah.
it's washing up. It depends on
Yep.
if it's a southwest wind and blowing really strong.
Yep.
It's what we do on, the town does on Bank Street Beach to get rid of, with a machine, to get rid of the seaweed. You don't want to be sitting there with flies and everything else and all, so that's, we just do a hand rake and we just kind of put it off to the
Yeah.
edge of each property line, and it's sort of also, Sandpiper, I mean, not Sandpiper, in on the beach does the same. I've been there
Yeah.
too long, right? Sandpiper, right? So, it's really, not very much invasive. Some days there's no seaweed if it's blowing from the north. Otherwise, if it's mostly codium, which I was on waterways for 10 years, and Tom Leach told me about codium, how it came in off Chinese ships or something, but it comes in, and it looks a lot, and then it shrivels down to absolutely nothing. So it's pretty much gone by the time September comes.
So compared to the operations that the town and a lot of other organizations do, their operation is very minimal. They do have annual reporting requirements, and it would be helpful to get those going forward, because we really hadn't been getting them. To make it easier, I said require a written report by October 1st annually, just so you have a deadline to do it, because right now it just says annual report, but it didn't give you a deadline. I like deadlines.
That's fine.
And something that we can put on our calendars too, as well. They're actively working with Mass Audubon and have them on the retainer for the beach, to monitor their beach and to report this year. So, I would recommend a 3-year extension for this. This is their first extension. And I would just like to see these annual reports get, with a little bit more detail on what activity you're doing. I know it may seem redundant every year, but it's important for us to have it, so.
So, I mean, the only thing I have to add to is that part of raking the seaweed off, a lot of times, since we own the property down to the mean low water line, and we have guests there, and if they're walking in the seaweed and there's hooks or fishing hooks or lures or ropes or something in there, people have stepped in them and got them caught in their foot, and then they're off to the hospital, and so then they come back on us, and why wasn't that cleaned up? So that's why one of our issues is that it's a double-edged sword here, that we need to kind of watch that, and ropes and things that get caught. Things wash in, especially after December, everything washed in. So that's just part of what we need to, watch out for. So.
Okay, thank you. Let's have commissioners weigh in. Sophia?
I have no questions.
No real questions. I would just emphasize Amy's point on the reporting. I think it's something we're missing with some of these projects, and we really want the feedback just to learn from what you do. So, simple narrative reporting, it would be really helpful for us.
Thank you.
Can do that.
No additional comments.
Abstain. Well, the question is, would photographs help? And these days, taking a few photos, you think that would be helpful? To go along with the narrative, or is it kind of?
You
beside
could,
the
a
point?
couple, but it almost might be more work than needed. I'd mostly like something like the operator, who actually operates the machine afterwards as part of his contract for doing the work, just email me, okay, what did you do?
Yeah, nothing was removed, he just goes around and smooths
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
Because it gets, from the fencing, it captures the sand, and so it makes hills and things, so then he just smooths it out and makes it more palatable to
Okay,
get
all right.
down to the beach. It's not, the inn next to us does the same thing, and as does the same reason for
The
Bank
town.
Street Beach.
Yeah.
So it's really,
Any removal of the plants, you mentioned codium, any actual removal of codium off-site?
no,
No?
we just put it right, we tried to put it on our property line with our private property, and then in the inn next to us, so that sort of gives you a little line further of where people should be sitting and not be sitting.
Yeah, so, dates, rough amounts, species, super simple narrative reporting.
Sure.
If they're doing it by hand, just having their staff do that, their staff may not even,
Yeah, there's not much to say.
No?
Yeah, it's a real simple report, but
It's not a huge amount of
Okay.
stuff, unless there's a huge storm.
Right.
You know, but other than that, like that
Mhm.
December storm washed up all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
And we had fences, boards, I had staircases.
Staircases, yes.
Everywhere on our beach, so, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have any of that, but our fences caught it. And then the fences blew down, so.
I think it's also helpful for the commission to consider extensions based on what was done.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
for that purpose too.
Okay, I would ask for comments from the public. One person online.
He's here for something else.
Yeah, I know, so I don't hear anything, so
Okay, so hearing no additional comments, I'll make a motion that we extend the permit for beach maintenance for a period of 3 years for 4 Braddock Street, map 7, parcel F17, SE 32-2451, under the condition that annual reports be submitted by October 1st of each year.
do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? 501.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All set.
Thank you.
We'll have that out to you shortly.
Great, thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request for an extension permit for 9 Atlantic Street, map 6B, parcel L145, SE 32-2467, for a new flood-compliant foundation.
They did the foundation work, but they haven't done the planting, and it's mostly American beach grass, and we're out of season for planting that. You need to plant it mostly in the winter. So they plan on planting it this coming winter, and because of that, they want a 2-year extension, so they can plant it this coming winter and then have a season to ensure survival. So they would like a 2-year extension.
Questions,
I don't have
comments?
any
Wayne?
problem with that, I think it's a good idea.
Jim?
No comment.
No comments?
No comments.
I have nothing. So,
I move to grant that extension.
I'll second.
comments? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
6 and 0.
It was Mark who mowed, then Jim seconded.
Next, we have a request for an extension permit for 31 Mill Road, map 15, parcel U3, SE 32-2458, to construct a pool and hardscape, invasive removal, and native planting.
The work's done, the planting's in, they would just like one more year to ensure adequate survivability on the plants. There's a big planting plan with this one.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
Hearing none,
Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the extension of the permit for a period of 1 year. Was it 1 year, Amy, or 2 years?
1.
1 year for 31 Mill Road, map 15, parcel U3, SE 32-2458.
I'll second it. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
6 and 0, thank you. Next, we have a show cause hearing for 1 Pilgrim Road, alteration of a dune without permit.
So if you would like, Mr. Chair, I will start, and Mr. Tresca, the owner, has joined us online here for this
Looks like
tonight.
he's,
Oh, I'll give him, wait a minute. Okay, we're not buffering anymore. There we go. All right, so I'll start, and then Mr. Tresca can talk to you about what happened on his end. So I was recently called by a beachgoer who was concerned about alteration of a dune. When I got to the property, which is 1 Pilgrim Road, there were 2 gentlemen removing the top of the dune in front of 1 Pilgrim Road. This is actually association property. The men performing the work said they were working for the owner of One Pilgrim. About a foot to a foot and a half of dune, at the top of the dune, had been removed, shoveled off, and the beach grass removed. I immediately told them to stop, and they did so. I took some photos and I sent, and you have them. So I contacted the owner, and he immediately got a hold of me as well, saying it was a misunderstanding, and instructed his contractor to clear a pathway to the beach and not do what they did, which was take off the top of the dune. The path that he has to the beach is to the north of where they were going. I can't say why, how it was articulated to do one thing and not the other. The dune was topped, and in my mind, this is a pretty serious violation. Coastal dunes are one of the more protected resource areas in the Act. I did, because there was a cut in the dune, I did allow him to put the sand back that had been shoveled off and attempt planting. He did do so. I would say the beach grass is a little sparse, but can be filled in over the winter time. And let's see what else. So again, this is a type of violation that's a pretty big one according to the Act, the Wetlands Protection Act of the state. And as such, I do recommend, because it is the owner's responsibility to adequately make sure his workers are doing what they should be doing on the property, I am recommending a $600 fine, $300 for removing of the vegetation, and $300 for altering the dune itself. But the owner is here, and he would like to be able to speak with you about this. He has, I will say, he has acted quickly to remedy the situation, faster than most people. So I do appreciate that. And I guess, Mr. Tresca, if you'd like to say your side of things, this would be a good time.
Sure. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to apologize. No one's more disappointed than I am that they went off course. I have to take full responsibility. I had talked to them over the phone. I asked them if they could, I maintain the path every year for over 25 years, and what happens is sand generally will blow in and kind of block the path. So what you do is you flatten it. It's at like a 45-degree angle. If you walked on it, you trip and fall. I don't know what they were doing. Fortunately, Amy got there very quickly and prevented it from getting out of hand. But I probably spend more time monitoring people going up on their dune and trying to prevent them from destroying it. It's not my dune, but I treat it like it is. It's loaded with ticks, so when kids go up to that top point where they actually took sand off, they shovel it off every year. I try to tell them, I mean, I guess I have no right to tell them not to, but I try to explain to them that you're not supposed to be digging up on the top of the dune where this actually occurred. And I tell them that it's loaded with ticks. I've got Lyme disease 3 times just trying to, I clean the dune every single year. It'll be loaded with beer cans and bottles and trash. People tend to just get whatever on the beach and just throw it up there. It abuts, obviously, my family's property. The dune itself is very important to us. It's actually a great protection in case there was a storm. It also gives us privacy. So I was furious when this happened. The people doing the work, very nice people. At least 1 or 2 of them don't speak English, and the only thing I can think of is they got confused. This winter, we probably received more sand than I've ever seen in over 25 years. So the normal pathway to the beach is usually very clear. Now, I wasn't down there. I just assumed it would be like that. A lot of the sand blew over where the distinct path to the beach would be. It's no excuse for them to go off like they did, but that's the only thing I can think that could happen. And again, Fortunately, Amy got there and stopped them quickly. And then I had them repair it is the best they could. They actually did a very good job with that. I had them actually put planting of grass. What I was going to ask tonight is, in the path going to the beach, there's always new grass that comes up. And what I've done in the years to keep and maintain the path, I actually, instead of just ripping the grass out and throw it out, I take that grass and I plant it into wherever there's sparse sections of the dune that could just wear down over the years. So I didn't want to do that without checking, but that's something that I've had very good luck with. If you actually dig down and get below the bottom of the grass and it has a little clump of sand and you put it in, it generally will take if it gets water, even in the summer months. Well, not the summer months, but this time of year. So again, I'm very sorry for what happened, and I can honestly tell you no one protects that dune more than I do, to the point where some people think I might be obsessed with it, but it's beautiful. I think it's great, and I just try to keep people from, bringing. Every summer there will be a group of kids, and I totally understand. They're just trying to have fun. They'll go up to that actual spot where these guys were doing the digging, and they would dig and dig and dig. And as much as I tell them, they're renters down for a week, and naturally they just want to enjoy themselves. So you also get the older college kids that might be up there sitting on the top of the hill drinking a beer, and if I say something, they'll throw the beers at me or whatever. But that's fine. I just, whatever I can do to improve the dune, even past what we've done now, I would like to do, and I certainly appreciate anything I can do to make it better, because that's something that, like I said, I've pretty much for over 25 years maintained that and taken care of it as if it was my own, which it's not. So that's pretty much it. And again, I'm very sorry for what they did. They definitely didn't do it intentionally. I know they were actually, I think, stunned that, they're doing it in broad daylight in the middle of the day. And they were surprised what they were doing was wrong. Certainly it was, and we tried to explain that to them.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to get comments from commissioners, unless you have something to add at this point, Amy. Wayne?
I suppose you just need to find them and have them replant whatever grass needs to be replaced, replanted.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no additional comments too.
Support Amy's recommendation.
Same.
As do I. So, I don't think there's much doubt here. So, unless there's further comment here, there's no more public here, so, would entertain a motion.
Okay, I will move that we issue a fine and order replanting of a dune for 1 Pilgrim Road, alteration of dune without a permit.
Second.
I think we should specify the amount of the fine and
Oh, yeah.
what it's for. It's for 2 offenses.
Yeah, fine of $600 for 2 days' worth of offense.
No, it's 2 offenses, not
2
2
offenses,
days.
okay.
Yeah.
One for changing the form of the dune and one for removal of dune vegetation. Do we have a second?
I second.
Wayne seconded.
Okay, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 6 and 0?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Mr. Tresca, I'll be in touch via email with you in the next few days, okay?
Okay, thank you. And again, I'm very sorry for what happened.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have an order of conditions for 157 Route 28, map 11, parcel S1-A, to install stormwater infrastructure with paved parking lot and landscaping.
Sorry, this was at the very end. This kind of slipped through the cracks for me when prepping for the minutes. So it's on your table. There should be an order of conditions on your desk. They are in Dropbox, I think, as well, but they were late, so. Happy to run through the special conditions here. I think I captured what everybody had wanted. I know Brad particularly wanted to make sure that, you know, at the time that this actually may come to fruition, that if the marsh has changed or migrated, that if there was gonna be any impact to marsh, it would have to come back. So I had that, it would have to come back for an amendment. The commission we can't require it, but we strongly suggest this project happen concurrently with the water main project that is to occur through the area, so as not to disrupt the site twice. As-built site plan, monitoring reports.
All looks good to me. No comments.
I have no questions, comments.
I have no comments either.
I just wonder if it's gonna happen, you know? It seems like it's, you know, the permit and design came early, but I guess that's not our concern.
I heard, NRCS is not gonna fund it.
The decision was made. Yeah, so that it could take a while.
Or at least that funding will not happen, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It-
This particular round. Yeah. That's what I wondered.
They didn't feel like it met the criteria for,
Wow.
because it couldn't meet, from my understanding, John Rendon would be the person to ask. Because of its location, it couldn't meet all the stormwater best management practices that you would typically be looking for, and that NRCS would typically be looking for as well. It's just due to the location. It's such a tight site. It's so close to water. There's no room to move around. You can't put the type of stormwater treatment in there that they would like to see.
Yeah.
It's an what they want to do is certainly an improvement over existing, but that's my understanding.
Well, the permit's there for 3 years.
Yep. So this would be close the hearing and issue. Yep,
Yes.
sorry.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 157 Route 28, map 11, parcel S1-A.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay.
501.
Oh, if you abstain, you don't sign.
No, that's right. I'm so used to doing it, that's right. Thanks for picking that up.
Okay, the last thing on the agenda is discussion and possible vote for Bell's Neck Management Plan. There were also minutes in the,
They're on the agenda, but not in my site summary, and there are minutes.
they're not in the copy of the agenda that I have.
Oh,
Or, wait a minute, there's two agendas here. One,
sorry, I'm looking for your agenda.
Oh.
That one.
oh yeah, I must have an earlier,
Yeah, there were two,
Okay, all right.
renditions. I was like, I think we added it.
shall we deal with the minutes first?
Sure, this is Heather's first set of minutes.
Nice job.
Yeah, so if you need to take a minute or two to go through them, please do, because they're hot off the presses.
Yeah, I don't have any comments.
Yeah, I don't have any comments. Any further comments on the minutes? Any need for more time?
Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of our meeting of May 1st, 2024.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
6 and 0.
Nope. Abstain from Mark.
Oh,
He wasn't here.
okay, 501. All right, so the last item on the agenda is discussion and possible vote for Bell's Neck Management Plan.
It's more so just an announcement. So I have to take the little bit remnants of your notes and put them into the final. But we have legally noticed the meeting. It's gonna be May 29th, 6:30 PM. I have sent an invite to the Board of Selectmen and told them that we would love their company and their review, as well as to send that out. I will have that document done tomorrow or definitely by Friday, and put that online as well, for review. And we will also be doing a public agenda by Friday as well for that.
What day is that? That next
It's a Wednesday.
Next Wednesday?
Yes,
6:30 or?
6:30. Sophia has let me know she will not be able to make that. Is everybody else able to come?
So far.
Wednesday, 6:30, yep. What do you think, Amy, about putting a notice up at the kiosk
Mhm.
at the Fishway?
Fine with doing that.
Yeah,
Yep. I'll even do it in bright colors.
those are folks that might, want to
Yep.
participate.
Can we talk about something else now?
So I just want
Go
to
ahead.
confirm there are 5, so far we have 5 people who are planning to be there next Wednesday.
Yeah, we need a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sunday, I went up to the Herring Festival, and when I was, there was quite a few people there. It was pretty good. Brad did a nice job. But when I was leaving, I tripped on that plank, that walkway across the flume. That thing sticks up about yay high. Went flat on my face on that on that thing and got dinged up a little bit. And I almost fell in the goddamn, in the flume. I got thinking about it. It's just ridiculous. That thing is not handicap accessible. It's got a big thing on the other side that you have to step up on. There's only one hand railing. Who is in charge of that thing? Us or the?
I can ask the maintenance department to fix it.
Yeah, they should immediately, if not sooner.
Ask
Before
DPW.
somebody falls in there and they sues the town.
We could put it in the plan, but, or it could just be a simple fix.
Well, this
Oh, yeah,
for a
make it a
fix
fix.
to make it safe for now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I've never known there to be a rail on it.
Isn't there one rail on one side? Or no, I think there is. I was gonna go up today.
So
Take a picture.
you're
and I didn't.
going, yeah, if I have a chance, I'll go by tomorrow. But if you're in the parking lot and you go up it,
Yeah,
on the top,
what do you mean on top?
where's the issue?
The step, he
It's
tripped
on
on
the other
step.
side.
Step.
That's
Yeah.
really deep, and it's a high step.
Oh,
I mean,
It probably should have a rail on both sides.
absolutely.
And, the step, yeah, I didn't see that happen to you, Wayne.
No, I heard
missed that.
a few people ask if I was all right. I got up and get the hell out of there quick, because I was more embarrassed than anything.
no, we'll go look at that. We wanna make sure it's safe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also, there's another thing there that needs to be addressed. Over where the outflow flow pipe is, there's a flume there, and then there's a big hole.
Yes.
About 4x4 or 3.5 by
Yep.
3.5. That needs to have a screen on it, because if a kid ever got in there, they would be gone down the pipe. I mean, it could be a fairly simple fix to get a screen and either fix it permanently or put it
Yeah.
on hinges, so in case somebody has to get in to do maintenance. But that's a very dangerous
All right, I'll go look at that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but, kids have gone through there for the fun of it.
For the front, yeah, but you see, the problem is you don't know what's in there. There might be a tree or
Like
stump
snapping
down in
turtles.
there. If they
Yeah.
get hung up on it, they're done.
It's a fast shoot. It's open.
Yeah.
You can look in there and see that it's open.
Yeah,
I would just caution that you wouldn't want anything to accumulate debris or impinge the
no, I'm
fish.
thinking about a screen up on top,
Yeah.
on the flat, not on the front of the pipe.
Stop people.
Yeah,
That way they couldn't fall in,
yeah,
It'd be a pretty simple fix.
yeah.
Okay.
Those are my unfortunate observations.
No, thank you.
You ever gone through there?
Not through it.
Yeah.
Brad has. All
Do
right.
you do that every year to make sure there's plenty of room for the herring? Is that what happens?
It's been a while.
Were you in your kayak or did you go in just head first?
It's not a long shoot. It doesn't, you're out quick.
It's one about 20 feet, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Bring your suit. All right.
Okay, do we have any other relevant business?
Have a good Memorial Weekend.
You too.
Yeah.
I'd
You
move
would
to
care to
adjourn.
make a motion?
I'll
Mark
move
moved to
that we
adjourn.
adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye, aye.